Hello.
Hello, hello.
Wow, good to see you.
It's really good to see you. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Oh, of course, of course. It's been a long time.
I know you're in California. What area are you in?
I'm in Los Angeles and actually downtown, which is kind of crazy. I just moved back here like 6 months ago from New York.
Oh, wow.
hmm
That's a long way to go.
I know, and I'm like, and now with the writer's strike and all the strikes, like a lot of work even got shut down for musicians because we do a lot of TV and film stuff, like being in the background of shots, and it's like my whole summer just got wiped out.
Oh no, you had a whole bunch of things planned and then
Yeah, yeah, I had a lot of filmings planned. So like the whole thing just got like around March, April, like things just started kind of shutting down. And now I'm just like, oh, was this the right decision to come back here? So I'm figuring that out right now. But it's
wow.
still it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's just like, I mean, even in other cities are affected by it too. So it's just kind of we're all just kind of hanging up by a thread, like, all right, what happens next? Like holding our breath. So
Yeah, like any strike. It's very unnerving.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting too because we just I think in New York the crew members, the IAST, whatever the stagehands were going to strike, which would have shut down Broadway. But I think the musicians union's the only union that can contractually not strike.
Really?
Yeah, and I found that out recently. They can't walk out. Other unions, I think they're able to. I don't know. It's a whole thing, but I just
Yeah.
feel like overall across the board, I think creatives are just. This is a huge pivotal time for everyone. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we're all kind of standing up together for, fighting against conglomerates and AI, and all of our careers are at risk.
Oh my goodness.
Kind of crazy.
Very crazy.
I know.
So I was going back a little ways looking through some information and you graduated from Berkeley in 2005?
I finished. I ran out of money. I walked. I walked. I'm a few credits short, so it's kind of crazy. I'm
But it
very
was back
particular.
in 2005. I thought it was even more recent than that. It doesn't feel that long ago.
I don't know where the time went. It's so crazy. Just I
I
woke up
know.
one day and it's 2023. So no, it was a long time ago. But
Yeah.
I just try to keep ties with Boston and with the school. So that's probably why it feels more recent.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I got to show you something as a
Cool.
guitar player. Have you seen this yet?
No. What you got?
So this is called a Ciari. So I don't I'm not I work with different companies, and there's so many great guitars in the world, but then this one's different.
How so? What's going on back there? Oh my goodness.
It fits under the seat in front of you on airplanes.
Okay.
It's a foldable guitar, but it's also it's not like your regular travel guitar. You can actually play it on a stage. It's got Seymour Duncan 59s. I just got it. That's why I was like, I can't wait to show Lauren. Actually, it fits in a backpack, and there's
Yeah.
a mechanism here that releases the tension. So you,
Yeah.
so you can fold it in three parts.
Oh my God.
It's
So for those who can't see
completely
this,
in tune.
you have to go watch this video. Maybe we'll put this as the short clip too, because
Oh
that was
yeah,
really
no,
cool.
it's
Angie
let,
just
let,
folded the neck back on her guitar. It was like her guitar was a yogi master and it just completely folded in three places.
it's the contortionist of guitars. But I just flew back to LA from Detroit yesterday. I had my regular, my mono case, my regular guitar,
Yeah.
and foldable. First time I've ever brought two guitars on a plane as a carry-on. And when it went through TSA, the guy was like, "Is that a foldable guitar?" I'm like, "It is."
That's
It's but
amazing.
and it fits in a backpack. So I'm like, it's just it's the most innovative thing I've seen recently.
Yeah, it
So
looks like one of those cool things you'd see at a NAMM show and go, whoa.
well, that's the thing. I was skeptical about it until a buddy of mine got one, and I was like, I have to try it because I'm like, one that folds in half. There's got to be intonation issues, and how does it feel at the point where it bends? So he let me try his, and I had recently sold a couple guitars, and I was just like, this would save me a lot of money and stress because my buddy's old Gibson got crushed. It got gate checked, and the
Oh my
handler,
God.
like the case broke open. He was looking outside the window in the airplane. So this will save me a lot of stress and times when traveling.
Yeah, yeah. So those places where it bends, it's just smooth and
Well,
you don't even
you can
realize
kind of
it.
see, like you can't really feel it. It's very, yeah, like
Yeah.
when you're playing, yeah, it's really still very playable. And then here where it bends, that's where it bends at the 12th and the 14th.
Oh, wow. And you don't feel that as a different
Nope,
in any way. That's
nope,
fantastic.
sounds good too.
That's
Yeah,
great. And Seymour Duncan. Wow, some of my favorite
yeah, yeah.
guitars.
Well, I think most of them come with P90s, but I wanted something Seymour Duncan's, and it's got a switching system too, so it can split the coils. So this is a pretty versatile thing. And next time I see you in person, I'm bringing it so you can try it.
Okay.
Okay,
Deal.
enough of that commercial.
I think the first time I realized that Seymour Duncan was an actual person was at
Yep,
my first NAM show. I was like, "You're a person? I thought you were a pickup."
I know, right? He's like, is that a pickup line? But never
Yeah,
mind.
right. All those guys, they use their names, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
that's so great. Well, that looks really
That's
cool. I'll have
that's
to
how I
check it.
felt about Les Paul. Excuse me.
Yes.
I chewed some ice because I knew I was talking to you. I went to like one of the few Dunkin' Donuts in Los Angeles today because I'm like the Boston connection.
All right. All right.
Yeah, but no, Les Paul, like growing up, I never thought, as a kid, I heard Les Paul, Les Paul. I thought about the guitar. Then to find out he's from my home state of Wisconsin. He's from Waukesha. I'm from Milwaukee, so
Wow.
pretty cool. Yeah.
That is super cool.
Hmm.
I bet a lot of students would be interested in how do you go from leaving Berkeley to doing all the cool things that you've done? Like what was some of the first steps, or how did you get involved with various things?
Biggest thing was going to jam sessions, like, wherever, like I moved from Boston to Los Angeles in 2005. And, at the time, social media wasn't what it is now. Like when I left Boston,
Oh,
I was living with three guys from Harvard who were telling me about this thing called Facebook that I should join. Yeah, I'm dating myself. But they're like, yeah, this Facebook thing is gonna blow up. And I'm like, no, no, I'm good with MySpace. What's the difference? And so like
yeah. Like
social media
how
wasn't
many
huge
different
yet.
places do we have to put all this information on?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just too much. I was just oversaturated, I thought. And so I was like, no, I'm not interested in it. And so social media wasn't huge yet. You weren't seeing like a lot of players and musicians online. So what I would do is like go out, and even though you have platforms online now, still it's too many, there are too many people doing it. So I said face to face time, go to jam sessions, go play with people who are better than you, just get out
Hmm.
there, get on stage. And because it's out of sight, out of mind. So you have to be very present and meet as many people as you can, connect with them. I
Right.
still carry business cards to this day, like tangible ones, because we meet so many people. We put
Yeah.
that information in our phone and then it's just gone in an abyss. So I'm like, I like to have a card that people wake up next morning, dig in their pocket. Oh, this person. And it's kind of like a reminder. So,
Oh, that's great.
networking in general is what what's helped me get my name out there. And then people would remember you. Oh, this person might be good for this project. But there's an audition process as well, but just being very present and visible is important.
Yeah. Because it's very rare that you just get an email out of the blue. But I mean, that's like what happened with me. Every once in a while, a management company or a touring company will email me and say, we're looking for someone to fit this particular situation or play in this gig, or do you know any women guitarists? Because David Byrne's looking for a guitarist. And
Well,
I thought,
no, that's I
I
remember.
thought,
This is
yeah,
your fault. The whole David Byrne thing was your fault. I mean,
I know.
thank you again for that, because that was a message and email. No, on Facebook. But back to the Facebook thing, staying connected on that.
I didn't know how to reach you. I just thought of you because, I thought, do I want to do this myself? No, I don't want to do this one. So who do I know that can play really good guitar? He's looking for a woman. And there were two people. And I don't know if you both auditioned or only you auditioned, but I was so glad that you got it because
Oh yeah, no, it was
super cool.
crazy how it happened, because I remember, I think the email you wrote me, you said some artist, and I didn't, it was kind of discreet at first, and
Oh,
I was like, oh, I don't live in New York, and I think you told me who it was. I'm like, oh yeah, and I auditioned I was living in Wisconsin at the time. I had gone back home for a couple of years. So I
oh,
had
wow.
a sick grandparent between 2015 and 17. I lived back in Milwaukee where I was from. And so I remember I got the email, and I auditioned via like just online, just sent a couple videos in and some referral letters. And he wrote me back, but his response, like his offer came to my junk mailbox. And
Oh,
I missed it for 48 hours. I didn't check. I never checked that. And I was just bored one day. I'm like, well, I haven't heard back from them. I guess that's that. And I checked my junk mailbox and it says from David Byrne, my tour and you.
oh.
So if I would have, he could have like gone to the next person if I didn't see that email.
Wow. Oh, that's so good you checked. So do you check from now on?
Several times a day.
Anybody looking for me?
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
That's really cool. But you know what really surprised me was that when I came to see the show in Boston, you guys were all barefoot. I thought there was no way I could have done that show barefoot.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing too. It was a lot on the body because I remember he said there's going to be some choreography. I was thinking two steps, but then when we
Massive.
started, the choreographer, she's not a musician, so like she would be like,
Oh,
everybody, I want you to throw your hands up on the downbeat, and we're like, there's not going to be a downbeat if our hands are in the air, and she's like, why is that? And you have to explain that to her. So that was kind of funny, but
that's hilarious.
yeah, no, it was a lot of dancing, and the barefoot thing I think was to be a contrast from the three-piece suits we were wearing.
Right?
But a lot having a heavy instruments, and I've got flat feet, so for a while I wore like ballet shoes and like arch support because
Oh, good.
we're doing like we did over 100 shows a year, probably about 500 total with the tour and Broadway.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
a lot on your feet.
Oh yeah, feet, back, shoulders, because we're doing those lunges and
Yeah.
running around. And I think, oh yeah, and one when we were touring in Brazil, we would bring things that each country liked. And in Brazil, I did a guitar solo while juggling with a soccer ball on my foot. I got to find that video somewhere
Oh my God.
because
And
half the band was Brazilian. So yeah,
wow.
it was
Had to
crazy.
connect with them. The
Yeah, yeah.
one of the videos I saw, then eventually everybody was wearing shoes. So then that switched.
No, we mostly stayed barefoot. If we were ever wearing shoes, it was usually at a concert where the stage was hot. Like we played Austin City Limits,
Oh,
and the sun was on the stage. And also, when you're playing music festivals, different bands come up, and these stages, some had nails sticking out of them.
yeah.
These we have wooden stages, but the hardest stage for
Splinters.
me to play was Red Rocks because the stage was pure cement. So
Oh,
there was no give. We're jumping up and down, nothing to absorb the shock. So
wow.
like we're having to ice our shins down, and then you're a mile high, so the air is thin. So we had like oxygen tanks on the side of the stage.
Wow, that's a really physical gig. Jeez.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it
Now,
was crazy.
were you guys touring with your own sound and lights, or was it up to wherever you got to?
Oh no, the tour was, yeah, we had a great crew. It was the same. The only thing that would change is every stage, the width of the stage. Some stages were 50 feet, some might be 60 or 100. So we
Mm-hmm.
gauge how large of steps we need to take to get from one position to the next.
Yeah.
Um,
And
But
you guys were all using in-ears, right?
oh yeah, we had in-ears, we had wireless microphones,
Right.
wireless instruments, but we also had this system called black tracks, which were antennas on our shoulders, which designated a spotlight for each of us. So it was, let's see, we were all wired up
Wow.
even before coffee.
Wow. Because,
But
out front, it was so boomy and so bassy. It was like they were trying to remove your vital organs with the
oh
bass.
wow. Okay, wait,
Was
where
it?
did you see it at the bank of the pavilion, or did
Yeah,
you see it at the theater? Okay, that
the
was out. Yeah,
Boston,
those outside areas are usually a little bit bigger.
Boston Pavilion. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we
So,
played at the Colonial Theater. We had like about a 1 month run at Colonial
oh,
uh,
cool.
right before we went to Broadway. They did like a month in Boston and then moved to Broadway.
So you didn't have to worry about on-stage volume because you could just control your own in-ears.
Yeah, we had in-ears, but the hardest thing, I think our front of house guy, he had quite the task because we're constantly moving around on stage. So the sound is changing.
That's
And
what I thought.
with our microphones on at any given moment, if there's a guy standing next to me playing the snare drum, I had to
Yes.
be aware of that and move away from him, or he had to watch out for me if I'm singing because it would pick up on the mic.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to that, but that was
That's
only 5 years of my 20-year career.
wow. Only 5 years. That's a
Yeah,
long time. Wow.
yeah. But in between that was 2020, everything was shut down, and I was in New York that whole time, which was
Oh,
interesting to say the least. I had moved to New York in 20, when did I do? I moved there in 2019. So I only had like 1 year to really experience New York before, the whole world changed. So
oh,
yeah, it was crazy. But it was a great experience. And everything. I feel like all the shows I'd done prior to that had really helped in leading up to that show with David. Like, Cirque du Soleil really helped. Getting used to using wireless systems and moving around the stage, and in ears, which I've used with a lot of different artists. But at
yeah.
first it's a little disorienting because I always was used to using a front, wedge. But
Hmm.
I do prefer the in ear mix because you can kind of get accustomed to what you want to hear, and you have
Yes.
more mobility and more freedom. And but one thing,
Yeah.
to avoid being disoriented, I always liked a little, like a microphone in the audience, so you can kind of get a lot of the ambient sound still.
Oh, good. So it felt like you were still there and the band was close enough because they're all dancing around you.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
other in-ear situations, you were standing in the same spot?
Yeah, usually, yeah, because like if they don't want the wedges, if they, some artists don't like a loud stage volume, so they'd rather have everyone just in their in ears. Yeah, exactly. And it's so weird. I just did a show 2 days ago in Detroit. It was called Black Women Rock, and it had like 10 vocalists, different artists from around the country. And I always get confused. We all had wedges. I'm like, sometimes the sound on the stage is just so all over the place. And I'm like, that's usually when the sound in the house is really nice. It seems to work like that usually. Like when I'm like playing, I'm like, is this what it sounds like out there? But the front of house person has a nice mix. Yeah, or like, they'd say, oh yeah, come to the front of the stage when you take a solo. And I would be, in front of my wedge. And then the second I leave, I can't hear myself.
Don't know.
So I'm just like, all right, just make sure you're playing the right thing.
I don't think people realize how much we all go through to play these giant stages or to go on these tours, or how much work it actually is. They just think, oh, you're getting paid to play, but there's so much
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
to
behind the
prepare for.
scene, yeah, people and a lot of public and masses still think this. Like they think music is a hobby. They don't. And think of it this way: medical school is what, 5 to 10 years. But
Hmm.
we start playing our instruments at young age, as children. You
Oh,
don't see
yeah.
people studying to become doctors at 12 years old.
I
And
know.
music
I
is
was talking
just
to
a
a
feeling.
friend recently, like, we put in our 10,000 hours before we even got to college on
Yeah,
our
yeah.
instruments, you know? So, yeah.
But people still don't, at least in this country, people don't see it that way. And they don't seem to value art and artists, like even people who are, saying like these actors and actresses who are going on strike, they're like, oh, well, you guys make so much. And oh, what are you complaining about? But that's only like a 1% of all the professional actors and actresses
Huh.
um, that aren't making a living. And, it's so people don't value art. But I'm like, imagine a world without music. What would you have done during the pandemic without, if you didn't have a record to listen to or a movie to watch? So that is essential work. We are essential workers.
Oh, yeah. It's the lifeblood of human kindness and inner life and
Mhm.
the creative life. I mean, that's the whole reason I wanted to start having some of these chats with folks, was to talk to other adults, and have some company in this amazing creative life that we all play in, but live in. I mean, we're putting sound to feelings that we have that express things that people have no words for. It's
Exactly. It's universal. Music and math, it's like the same rules and across the board. I remember when I first came to Berkeley, I was right from Wisconsin, and just I was scared. I didn't know anybody. It was a new city, and Boston compared to Milwaukee was so much bigger, and these people from all over the world. And I remember sitting outside and I was hearing a lot of different foreign languages, which was really, because it's a very international school. I remember this guy came up to me. I had a guitar, and he hardly spoke English. I can't even remember what language he was speaking, but he was just like, want to jam, like want to play. And I'm like, okay, we get a room, and all of a sudden the communication was there.
Yeah,
I can just play like a blues or something. So that's like it's universal and it's a very special thing we have and we share with each other.
that's so awesome. And then all those barriers come down, which is so great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When the music starts and people lock in and they really look at each other and they sort of see each other's hearts and you realize, this is peaceful. This is wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. It's a connecting thing. And again, that's why I think it's very important to protect that and to cherish that and to make sure and to keep passing that along to people and younger people and keep them out of their phones and like be more just be more connected with one another off screen as we talk here on Zoom.
Well, this is,
But we're 3,000 miles apart, so we have a good excuse.
yeah, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. I know. Someone had asked me if we could do this in person. I thought, well, that's a whole other setup.
Yeah, yeah,
Need different cameras and two
yeah.
people sitting next to each other, like the Dick Cavett show or something.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, eventually, I'm sure. Like when I'm out, if I'm out on the East Coast, I come up to Boston, I'll let you know.
Okay, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The the thing that I find really interesting is when people want to start playing an instrument. Like, how old were you when you first fell in love with guitar?
Oh wow, I was
Like, what
well,
was
my dad's a guitar player. He never played professionally, but he played guitar growing up and then switched over to bass. He had this old, oh, what did he have? He had like this old 70s Strat. I'd walk up to him and kind of try to strum it. I think I have a video of me at like 3 years old playing a ukulele. And I kind of already had the strumming pattern, I already had like the right hand technique. And I just watch him and his friends play all the time in our basement. My mother listened to all types of music. She turned me on to like Tracy Chapman, Robert Cray, Dave Brubeck. And my dad got me into like Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien.
there you
That
go.
album, like he played in the car in the summer, driving down the road, listening to like Crushing Day or Always with You, Always with Me. And also Stevie Ray Vaughan, and his last concert was in Wisconsin, again my home state, Alpine
Oh,
Valley. It was him,
wow.
Robert Cray, Eric Clapton, and Jimmy Vaughan. And I remember when the helicopter crash, I hearing about it, and I was like, too young to really know what was going on, but I remember how upset my father was about that, and
Mm.
where he was playing Pride and Joy, and then just so then that and Janet Jackson Black Cat tour. I think that was one of my first concerts.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and what else? Oh, and Jennifer Batten, of course, Dirty Diana video. Like I remember watching those and
Oh,
yeah, just
wow.
but I think I got my first guitar when I was 11. It was like a harmony guitar from a J.C. Penney catalog.
Hmm.
It was an electric, yeah. And I'm trying to and I'm playing as like Christmas, it was a Christmas present, and I started going to little guitar camps in Green Bay, Wisconsin, learned the pentatonic scale, and I thought I was the coolest person on earth. I was like playing the scale up and down really slowly, like quarter notes or half notes, and
Wow.
yeah. So my mother took me to guitar lessons. I started with mostly blues, and moved over to jazz in high school. And I was taking like summer programs at University of Wisconsin. They had
Oh,
like summer
wow.
jazz programs, and I was really into jazz, and that's kind of what helped me get a partial scholarship to Berkeley. And I wasn't sure
Okay.
if I was going to go to Berkeley. I applied for the new school, University of Arts, Roosevelt, and Berkeley, and I want to say it was. I think I flipped a coin. I have a quarter from the year I was born because I couldn't decide between the new school and Berkeley, but New York's felt so intimidating to me. It was such a big city. I couldn't navigate it. I was freaked out by the size of it. And Boston just felt like the better choice. And, I had gone to like the Berkeley high school jazz competition with my high school. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, so I had a lot of prep into making that decision. And also, I like the show Ally McBeal and Boston Public, which took place in Boston. So I love the buildings there. It's just very
It is cool architecture.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful city. So
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy that that's the path that chose me or whatever.
And what major were you working on?
I did professional music because I just felt like it was a blend of different things I wanted to try out.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I thought of it as like a choose your own adventure. Because I was interested in a lot of different things, production, writing, definitely playing.
Hmm.
What was important to me is like, reading. was very important, but at the time I wasn't such an ear player. So I started when I started going to jam sessions. And once I was old enough, I always wanted to go to Wally's. I remember at 20 years old, I walk up to the front door and I was like, will they let me in? Will they let me in? This big guy at the door. And I just walked there. I was too scared to even try. So I didn't go to Wally's until like until I was 21. And just going in there, I used to be so nervous. I would leave in tears because I couldn't follow everyone.
I've never even been there.
What's in Boston?
I
Columbus in
know.
Mexico.
I know.
You
I've
haven't
passed
been to
by.
Wally's? Okay, yeah. We're gonna have to go there when I'm there. But it's no, it's a staple. Like so many people have gone through there, and it's
Oh yeah.
just so. And I used to live right down the street from Wally's, so I usually go on the funk nights on Sundays and Tuesdays. Some of the people still play there too that I used to play with.
Oh sure.
Yeah, so it's just that place is just has a very special place in my heart, and
That's cool. Well, how would you say your playing changed from before you went to Berkeley to when you went back to California?
Uh,
Bunch of
well,
time
it
there.
just changed a lot. I mean, before, I mean, so much like before, I was just a young, I was young, and even in school throughout Berkeley, I was young. Like I really, I feel like I picked up a lot of fundamentals at Berkeley, like all the technical things.
Mm.
Um, but then like getting out and playing after that and developing but having those tools in my back pocket, I think really helped. But then
Yeah.
like experience wise, like I know so many amazing players, but then
Mm.
until you get out there and make yourself vulnerable and get on stage, you don't really know what it feels like. I've seen so many killing musicians on YouTube. You have like 100,000 followers, and then all of a sudden they're a musical star, but then they don't know how to play in front of or play with people. They're killing, but then the ears aren't developed yet because you can play amazing things by yourself. But then when you get on stage with other people, you don't know how to make space for those other people because music is a conversation. Like you can't be la 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 while other people are, it doesn't work that way. You have to be able to say something and
Good
then
point.
listen. Like it's not about what you play, it's about what you don't play when you're in a group setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well put. I know there's so many different ways in which we're brought up that are conducive to playing with others or not. Like piano players and guitar players are often taught to be virtuosos, and
Mm.
bass players and drummers are looking for people to play with all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, see,
You
that's
know,
why it's bass player. You'll never be out of work if you're a bass player.
they've
But
been
then,
saying that since I was a student.
then I'm starting to see like 5, 6, 7, 8 string basses. I'm like, hey, stay in your register. When I see a bass player go past the seventh fret, I'm like, all right, we have a problem. Then I bust out the octave pedal.
Stay in your register. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
but no, it's about listening and connecting. Like the drummer and bass player it's like a triangle. The drummer and bass player foundation,
mm,
uh, and then you have like piano, guitar, and then everything else on top. But as a guitar player, I've gotten more work because I know how to lay out. Like I know no because it's they though this is I don't know if this is G rated or whatever, but someone once told me your left hand will get you laid, your right hand gets you paid. Because you can do all the fancy, no, it's true. You can do all this fancy stuff and everyone's like, oh, but then if you play in the pocket, play your parts, like when it's your time to shine, you do that. And that time will come. But if you're
yeah.
playing for everyone the whole time, you're not going to keep your gig.
No.
So yeah,
No.
just knowing your part. Sometimes it could be one note, but if you just play that one note with conviction and
Hmm.
time and rhythm, like that's like David's music. He bases it off like African and Brazilian music, which is very rhythmic.
Hmm.
And when I was in Berkeley, I played with an Afro funk group based in New York called the Femme Nameless, and Esperanza Spalding was on bass, and
Mm.
we could take the Chinatown bus from Boston to New York and play with this Afrobeat group, which ended up touring in Europe. That was my first time going overseas. And it was just like 20 minutes of the same note, chicka, 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 just saying same thing, just you play in the pocket. And I love that kind of stuff. That's like old 70s funk. You'll have like 14-piece bands and you just play your simple part, your ingredients. Other people put in their parts, their ingredients, and you create a delicious cake or something.
That is cool. That's super
Yeah.
cool. Do you do these kinds of arrangements now for your own music?
That's what I'm trying to do. Like I've been working as a hired gun for so long. I have not released any of my own music, and it's well overdue. And so that's kind of what I'm focusing on now. As you know, gigs have kind of dried up a little bit, and also, I don't like to spread myself thin anymore. I'd rather work on things that are meaningful to me,
Hmm.
and I want to create something of value that'll be here once I'm not on this planet anymore. I want to leave something left. I want to leave something, you know
Yeah.
so yeah, that's really at this point playing behind people. I keep getting the question, like, do you have your own music? And I'm like, not yet. And I've recorded stuff over the years, I just haven't mixed or released it. So I've been going through some old hard drives.
Yeah.
um, because when I used to tour in the US, I'd find friends, all my friends kind of spread out now. So if I go to a city, oh, Thomas Pridgeon, amazing drummer. He's based in Oakland. We did a recording. He played drums on one of my songs when I was there. I found a friend that had a studio.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
I've got August off and I'm like, but I need to make money too. That's the thing. So it's like a balancing act all the time. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
what kind of things extra are you doing to make money?
Wow, that's a good question because I had that. So I had all the TV and film stuff lined up. So now it's just kind of spot dates here and there. I'll probably be doing some mentorship programs. I'm going to set up soon, next couple weeks. And there's a bass player named Mono Neon, who's he was Prince's last bass player before he passed away, and he's got a show at Yoshi's Jazz Club in San Francisco in September. I'll be out there with him,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, so just kind of doing like a whole revamp right now. And one thing that's been on the minds of myself and a lot of musicians, like gigs still pay what they paid in the 80s and the 90s, and we're trying to figure out how to
Hmm.
make it so you can be a professional musician in the cities you live in and be compensated properly.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice in New York City before I left was a lot of people are playing in these clubs that don't there, but they work. I met a guy who works for Google, but he's a great guitar player. But he's making six figures, so he'll play a club gig for free. And then his friends come, and I'm like, dude, you're lowering the bar for actual pros. So there
I was
needs to
going to
be a way
say,
to, yeah, there's a lot of people doing that now. I'm like, there has to be some way to bypass that, or where you have to have, I hate to say, like a professional license to play in a venue.
right?
I don't know how they do that, but because right now people have champagne expectations and beer budgets.
That's good.
Yeah.
I know it's like there's never any consensus, but if there was some way in which
Hmm.
all the professional musicians said, no, we're not going to be available unless the rates go here, people would do something about it
Well,
because,
see, that's what unions. That's why I believe I really hope that the American Federations of Musicians, overall, the national chapter, and then all the other individual ones can somehow come together and come up with something. But I can see musicians doing that. But then you have all the people who are not professional musicians that do play instruments and are
mm,
happy to fill that void for next to nothing. So there needs to be some sort of legislature or something. I don't know
yeah.
how they fix that, but it would take unity by musicians. But what's the definition of a professional musician? So
Yeah,
it's a
that's
it's a long way to go, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. And I think a lot of players, young ones now on tours, they're kind of being exploited. They don't realize how much they could be making on a gig because they just want to be on the big stage. And sometimes the bigger
mm,
show, the lower the money.
yeah.
A piano player from Berkeley, Russ in Florida, he actually put a good post up about making yourself valuable to your
Mm,
clients, because nowadays pop music is easier than it's ever been. Think about the arrangements Michael Jackson used to have versus
not
the,
easy.
the three chords you can play now with any like major pop band. So you are easily replaceable because anybody can play a couple chords and
Yeah.
look cute doing it. Whereas he made a good point. He said, he played with Josh Groban, and Josh Groban, you have to be able to read and play all different styles of music and be
Wow.
very efficient.
Yeah.
However, Josh Groban doesn't have a budget that, say, Britney Spears or Beyonce would have. But
Right.
also, music is way more complex. So to
Well,
keep the top players, you have to compensate properly. But these other larger artists, it's easier music, but that's the middle class is kind of disappearing. So we're trying to find that balance, in that.
yeah. Well, speaking of parts and things like that, how much of any of the tours have you been on did you have freedom to create something? Or how vague were your guitar parts? How specific were your guitar parts?
Let's see. For example, David's stuff was very specific because it was, I was true to the album. For instance, "Stop Making Sense." I was very interested in the tone, what like Adrian Belew was playing, or Alex Weir. I watched the movies, um, and some of those are very noticeable. I mean, there's think about like people who are non-musicians, but they know what they're supposed to hear. Like
Yeah.
Journey, Journey, "Don't Stop Believing." The most drunkest guy who's never played guitar before knows what the solo is supposed to sound like. So there, yeah. So that kind of stuff, you do have to play the parts. I played with Ceelo Green as well. We did Rock in Rio in Brazil, and yeah, he, there were a lot of parts for his stuff, but then there was a lot of freedom. The band would kind of open up and jam a little bit.
Hmm.
So again, it depends on each individual, artist and what they're looking for. Some people
Yeah.
know what they want, others don't know what they want, and they give you the freedom to be yourself and just play what you want, how you want to play it. But in respect to the song as well.
And
So.
then if they did know what they wanted, did they give you parts or did
Oh yeah, yeah. They'll give you parts and they can hear it like some.
and they were
It's
written
interesting,
down
but whether
correctly?
yeah, whether it's a known artist or not, this is kind of funny. Someone put up a meme. They're like, AI cannot take musicians the jobs of our jobs because that would require a client being able to specify what they want. And there's so many artists who don't know how to explain what they hear it in here, but they can't like translate it to you. So that can kind of be hard, but it's fun to work with artists that are actually musicians themselves.
Yes.
Then they have a better, way of explaining to you what they want.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of people think they're just going to be able to play whatever they want whenever they want. And if they're not used to playing in a band, like you were saying, they don't know how to fit in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, they're constantly playing because they're used to constantly keeping something going for themselves. And they don't realize, no, there's a whole band now. You can lay out here and there. And that
And
would actually be better.
yeah, no, and actually something recently, I think, guitar is one of the hardest instruments. People don't understand that. Like we have the X and Y axis, it's not very linear. It's in fourths of all things. And then um there's so many different styles, different ways of playing, finger picking, country. Like people see me as a guitar player, like, oh, you can play this. Look at this crazy metal song. I'm like, I'm not a metal player. I can, oh, I'm more of like funk and rock or this country, like twangy, like picking kind of thing. I don't do that, but they're like, oh, well, it's guitar. So you must be able to do that. But it's, as a bass player, you're playing the low note. I mean, there are different styles of playing bass, but it's not as broad as the guitar. There's so many different, like I wouldn't ask Wes Montgomery to play Eruption,
Right.
It might sound cool, but it won't sound the way you think it would.
Or you wouldn't expect Paul Simon to play on Giant Steps,
Yeah, exactly. But people who aren't musicians don't usually understand that. Like as a, you never stop learning, and guitar is just such a complex instrument. And
Yeah.
actually, I just there's this guitarist Ella Feingold who went to Berkeley for a short while, and she came up with this. Well, some other people have told her about this tuning. Actually, Jeff Lockhart, who plays at Wally's a lot, there's this it's alternate, oh, what's it called, alternate standard tuning, where let me try to explain it. I have one of my guitars tuned like this, where you flip the strings, so the high E string is down here,
Oh, wow.
and then you take the B string and put it where the A string is and tune it to A. So then you have the high E, high A, regular D, regular G, and then you take the A string and make that low B down here, a low B down here, and low E here. So it flips the entire sound, the whole everything's inverted.
Wow.
It's standard but inverted tuning.
That's interesting.
So it's not good for like soloing, but it's really cool for rhythm. It broadens all the inversions, all the chords you can play.
Yeah. And you're using the same thickness of strings?
Yeah, it's the same strings, just flipped over. Yeah.
tune them differently.
Yeah. I'll send you the link to that because I took one of my guitars and
But you actually swap the strings physically so that the thinner strings are.
oh yeah, you swap the strings physically and you have to actually flip the nut too, because
I was
otherwise
gonna say it won't fit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually did that with one of my guitars and it just oh my God. Cause I was kind of feeling in a rut musically with guitar. I'm like, I
Hmm.
need something new and I don't want to buy pedals. I'm trying to get away from those things. I
Yeah.
like your tone is in your hands. Um,
Absolutely.
like Joe Bonamassa, I saw him play at the Bitter End in New York several months ago, and the other guy just had this huge spaceship of pedals, and it looked like a whole guitar center. And Joe was just there with twin reverb, chord, guitar,
Yeah. Sounded
and he
amazing.
had so much more to say and so much more going on,
Yeah.
and it was just really cool to hear. So that's for a while I was just like, oh, what can I do with guitar that would kind of open my mind up and like reawaken my senses. So flipping these strings, like just really, it's mind
That's
blowing.
done it for you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you a
That's
link.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. I want to hear it. Want to
yeah.
see it and hear it. Yeah. That sounds interesting. Did you ever? I know when we were studying together, you hadn't been in alternate tunings much, but that's kind of one of the reasons I love alternate tunings so much is that I can forget everything and just put my hands anywhere and hunt and peck for some kind of a sound that starts to fill out a chord that makes me feel a certain way. And then
Yeah.
each of the six voices feels independent. So I think, oh,
Mhm.
this note should go down, this one should go up. And I'm just literally hunting and pecking for the chords. And these beautiful things happen.
Oh
Even
yeah.
if I even write that way in standard tuning, very often I'm not thinking, oh, yes, B flat major seven should go to the C minor
Yeah,
seven.
yeah.
It doesn't come to me that way. It comes to me first through a feeling and a sound. And especially if I play piano, it's just so big and it swells and the harmonics and the overtones. It's like, oh, like you feel your chakras spin, it's just
Oh
so
yeah.
amazing. So if you wrote that way, you could completely free yourself because you could just follow what feels good.
Exactly, exactly. And so, like I said, I felt like I was kind of in a rut, like an audible rut. Like even like listening to new songs. I'm just like, that's why I like to get recommendations from friends. I'm like, hey, what band should I check out?
Yeah.
Um, then I don't like Spotify or any of that stuff because it doesn't pay well for musicians. So it's hard to get. I have like records I listen to. I don't like to, the streaming again. Streaming was a big thing.
Yeah.
As I was leaving Berkeley, the whole industry was flipping on its side because Napster had just started. So what the industry was when I went into Berkeley was not what it was once I left. So that was a big thing, and
Wow.
streaming, and so like it is cool to have access to so much music now, but it doesn't feel great knowing that the artists aren't being compensated fairly for that. So
How did
yeah.
that affect some of the major artists you're playing with? I mean, they went from selling lots and lots of merch to all of a sudden all your physical CDs and or albums don't matter.
Well, yeah, you can't make a living off of just selling music now. And I think Snoop Dogg came out with this thing. He said, when I was coming out, the numbers made sense. He said
Yeah.
I had 10%. If I sold 10 million copies, I made $1 million. And now it's like you get 1 million streams and you make $600. So it's the math doesn't make sense. And when all the illegal downloading started with Napster and record labels started losing money, the first thing they cut were bands and live shows. So that's why around 2006 to 10, you mostly saw singers with DJs and dancers. Dancers
Wow.
would go out and play for next to nothing. They didn't have a union. DJs were cheaper than a whole band and bringing equipment. So around that time, I remember like bands started cutting live shows became something else and more visual with just like lights and dancers and a DJ in the corner.
Hmm.
Just in recent years, I've started seeing more bands, rock bands always have musicians, but like R&B and pop, now they have bands again. It's starting to come back and like
Yeah.
Beyonce had her all-female band around 2007 or 8. But then also like women make less than men. They
Really?
often, oh, hey, you did. Oh wait, I'm all right. I'm preaching to the choir, but no, that's
Ah,
now you're working twice as hard for half as much. And I realized that you got to like fight for things, and it's like it shouldn't have to be such a battle. And that's just another energy waster. And And,
Yeah.
they try to cut corner. A lot of people try to cut corners, and, we're all out here trying to make a living. So, I used to want to like pretend to be a guy, like just erase all my social media and just be like, yeah, I'm Matt and I play guitar. Hire
Yeah.
me. And I'd be the
Yeah.
one to show up. Like a blind audition, pretty much.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
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 Because those have made a difference in history, as we know.
But then sometimes it's a novelty though. Like I don't want to be a female music like and I don't like to be called girl guitar player. I'm not a girl.
I
I'm one.
know.
And you don't call a guy who plays guitar a boy guitar player or a man band. A boy band is in sync. A girl band is like L7. That's what that's kind of the terminology always kind of like
Yeah.
didn't sit great with me. But
And I
yeah,
always wanted the attention to be on the music and on the musicianship. And
exactly.
I've always been known as a musician's musician. So
Mhm.
musicians get me and they
Yeah.
really enjoy what I do. But everybody else, it's like when I was putting out first albums and getting radio play and marketing and, articles and reviews and all that stuff in 1989 for my first album with Too True, um, it was like, we've already added a girl band this week to the playlist, or we've already added a girl to the radio station. It was like, what?
Yeah, it's like fitting the status quo. Like, oh, like it's not virtue signaling. What is it? It's oh, we filled that quota, and then they
Yeah,
think,
like,
oh, well, here's one, we've done enough, but then nothing changes systemically
yeah.
or behind the scenes.
But what was funny was before the Beatles, there wasn't even a formula to say we got to find the next four guys.
Yes.
They started that, and there wasn't anything about being young people making decisions and having anything to say. It was all about older people and Frank Sinatra and, all these kinds of wonderful artists, but they weren't super, super young artists. Then the
Yeah.
Beatles came along, and every major label and management company has thought it's about a young person ever since. And that's
Yeah.
not true either.
Well, then you think of someone like Bonnie Raitt. She didn't get or she didn't really get signed until what? She was like 41, 40, 44, something like that.
Well,
So
she didn't break through till Nick of Time.
yes, yes.
And she said the reason for that was finally friends of hers became heads of labels.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can decide anything they want. They can market anything they want. They can
Mhm.
sell anything they want.
It's the
It's just,
gatekeeping. Yeah, it's just
yeah,
like
it's just whatever they decide they're going to do. And when they say we don't know how to market this, that never made any sense to me, because when you used to go to Tower Records, it was like, here's classical, here's vocal, which was Broadway and, Barbra Streisand and those wonderful things. And then it was everything else. So when they said,
yeah,
we don't know how to market this, it's like, what are you talking about? I'm in the everything else.
exactly, exactly.
So funny. Uh,
Mhm.
but, have you heard of Dana Wilde and brain training, EFT or the RAS and some of those kinds of things?
No, no.
Because as much as we're all in this together, there is this individual attracting, like law of attraction and those kinds of things. And the more you can focus on what you actually want and the things that you want to do, the universe sort of molds itself around you and things start to happen in new and interesting, magical ways. It sounds a little crazy, but I think more people create what they're doing by focusing on what they actually want rather than any union or anything else.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
if you look at Dana Wilde's work, she's talking to entrepreneurs about how to make money the fun way, by
Mhm.
feeling good. And
Well, they say what if you do what you love to do, you'll never work a day. You'll never work a day in your life.
true. And
Sometimes,
then,
like I no, I agree. Like I sometimes I'll get in a gig where I'm a well, it must be the Capricorn in me. Logistics. Like if things are like kind of like disorganized behind the scenes, it makes it hard for me to just want to play the music. Or but once I'm on stage, I'm fine because I love playing. But
hmm,
if you have like a smooth team and communication is good. Again, I think musicians are great communicators
hmm,
because that's what we do. But you have people who you have to work with, like management or people higher up, and they're trying to put together something, and they might forget, like, have blinders on, not see something that we've probably seen because we've been doing this forever. Like, I've
Mm,
played with so many different artists, and I've had, they come and go. Some artists have a 1 year career, some have 10, 20 years. And no matter what, we're still doing what we do. We're just doing it for different clients and different people.
yeah,
But yeah, it's being able to transform and be, to create good situations, if you build a good team
right.
and have good people behind you. And I feel like I'm lacking that sometimes, honestly, just because I'm so spread out. Like, you have your core people at Berkeley is everywhere, which I really like. Like the network is strong. And every city I go to, I find somebody that knows someone from there or has been there. But as we've
Wow.
gotten older, like I think after I left, I moved to LA. A lot of people that were at Berkeley the same time I was came to LA as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
people start having families and kids, and they either move out of LA. LA is rough. It could be a hard city to break in
Mm,
or find your footing. And so, it just spread out. I see people moving to different states, and that's just ongoing. But,
yeah.
for me, it's like having that team of strong people with the same vision, and I
Mm,
have those friends, but they all live in different cities.
yeah. But there's ways of doing things even remotely now, which is just so great. And
Yes, yes,
that's cool. But as an independent musician yourself, uh, you're like a mini entrepreneur. You're
yes.
creating all of this for yourself. And this RAS thing is the reticular activating system. It's a thing in the brain that they've studied. Brain trainers talk about, and they say that whatever you're thinking about and focusing on, you get more of, and your brain brings you to that. So if we start believing the jobs are drying up or everything really is in bad shape and things are shifting and we really don't know what's happening and it looks like it's all falling apart, your brain tries to keep bringing you more of that, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
even
I
though
think
those
it's
things are
rebuilding.
going out on a big global way, there are individual things that can happen, like sometimes the worst times, there are people who actually make the most money during that time or whatever because
Oh,
things are shifting, but they don't believe they're going to be part of something that bottoms out and like they don't have to jump off the building. Like they can figure out how to make something work for
well,
themselves. And
that sounds very Warren Buffett of you. He says, like, when everyone else is fearful, be hopeful. And then when everyone else is hopeful, like when the market's down, that's
yeah,
the time
yeah.
to get in.
But yeah, the RAS is very interesting. I mean, you may have noticed this in like normal life. The biggest example I can remember is like having to move a lot and
Hmm.
looking for boxes. And so you're always looking for boxes because you have to pack and you have to move. So I remember walking down the street and thinking, oh my God, there's a really good box. And I was like, wait, I've already moved and unpacked. I don't need to be looking for boxes anymore. But
Yeah.
like even right now, if I told you to look around your room, you would just see your room. But if I said, look for everything that's red, all of a sudden, boom, 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 all the red things would pop out. And that's how the RAS works. Yes. uh, if you say, I'm going to look for opportunities, or I'm going to find a bass player, or I need to fill these two sentences in my songs, or I need to find another gig, or I need to make more money, your brain goes, okay, I'm on it. And then all of a sudden, something happens which feels very coincidental, where you meet just the right person, or you get just the right phone call, or just the coolest email comes through,
Well, it's like
and
doors close and open, it's like,
exactly.
well, one thing I've excuse me, when I've done clinics and talked to students about the psychology of auditioning, because I used to go and I go to an audition I leave feeling shattered. I'm like, I
Mm,
I suck. I don't want to do this anymore. I quit. I feel horrible.
mm,
I can't believe I didn't get this gig. But you get everything that's meant for you. And
yes,
what I train my brain to do is now when I go to an audition, I treat it as a gig. So that way the anxiety of, oh, I'm auditioning for something is gone. I'm like, oh,
oh
I'm going
good.
to I'm going to play this gig. And if the gig didn't go great, oh well, there's another one coming. And so now I'm not, so it really, when I think of going to an audition, I think of it as a performance
That's so
versus
cool.
oh, I'm trying to prove myself to something. I've already proven myself to myself. So
I like that. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So it helped so much. I don't like even performing now. Yes, I think I did a show the other day, and a lot of the players were younger. We're about to start. And they're like, Do you get nervous before shows?" I'm like, "No, I always hold my hands like this now."
Oh yeah, I've heard about this.
I love, yeah, all that. Like I can feel the little vibrations in my fingertips. I'm like, no, I'm excited. I'm the
I'm
most
powered.
normal. I'm the most normal on stage. It's my comfort zone. And all through rehearsals, because I've been having back issues, I was sitting really still and just quiet in rehearsals, learning the parts, and everyone else, kind of bouncing around. I'm like, when I'm so I think they thought I'd be timid on stage, but once I was on stage, head up, looking, just I felt free.
Oh yeah, you come alive. You're amazing. What I love that you're talking about this though, because it sounds like you've done some work for inner validation. Like you're not looking
Yes.
to be validated on the outside, even though someone's trying to hire you. You're not trying to be anything and everything they want. You're saying, do I have what you're looking for? Is it a fit?
Yes, yes. It's not like, oh, let me prove myself to you. It's like this is what
Right.
I bring, this is the product I have. If you're interested, here it is. If not, there's a ton of other things.
Yeah, yeah. So what did you do to overcome, if you ever had it in the beginning? Like people would want to know probably about stage fright.
Actually, Livingston Taylor, his class.
Yes.
Remember, I took
Yes.
his stage performance skills class. I remember I was so scared to get up. That was at the 1140 building, and
1W.
yes, yes. And we'd have to get up in front of the class and just recite the alphabet. And I forgot it. I was like shaking. And I'm like, oh,
Really?
yeah, this was a long time ago. But I remember, like, how did I mess up the alphabet? Like, but just standing in front of people. So I guess how I got over that was I just, the way I cared about it was I stopped caring.
There
And
you
also
go.
having, and remembering you're not, well, unless you're playing by yourself on stage, you're with a team with your friends, you're having a good time, and I connect with the audience. I start looking at people because you're giving them something and you're feeding off the audience too.
Yes.
For instance, this kind of made it hard with David Byrne's show. We're looking at the audience smiling, and the energy they give us, we give back to them, whether they're standing or sitting. But when the show came back for the second round on Broadway, everyone had to wear a mask. So all of a sudden, the curtain,
Oh,
because of COVID and the Broadway rules, curtain comes up for the first time in like a year. Excuse me, and this is what you see, like just
whole audience.
so it was hard. People were trying, you could see them trying to smile with their eyes, but it was harder to connect with people. Like when it came up, I was like, this feels so weird, like a episode of Black Mirror. And so that was like a huge hurdle at first when the show came, when the show came
Sure.
back, because for years, that was the first time in my entire life a curtain had come up and everyone's got a mask on. And we were in a whole different world at that point. And that was a big like reality check.
Was the whole band wearing masks too, or no?
Oh no, no, we didn't wear masks on stage. That was the thing. We had a COVID compliance manager, and we'd have to test every day. And
How
you know,
did you do?
oh, excuse me.
Did you stay well?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had COVID early on, like July 2020, like before all the vaccines and stuff came out. So, I
Oh
mean,
my God.
it was yeah, it was horrible. But I just remember the way I realized it is I went into a coffee shop, and I felt kind of out of it. It felt like a hangover. I was just like very like lethargic, and then I was like, I don't smell anything. And it was like fresh coffee beans everywhere. And I'm like, I don't think I'm well. And then it just progressed. It was like 2 weeks of, it was like one symptom a day, but very severe for about 2 weeks. And, um,
Whoa.
like I said before, but this was before the vaccine was out. And I was just like, I tested for antibodies after that and that they were high. So it proved I had COVID. Um,
Wow. Oh
so
my
yeah,
God.
it was crazy. That was the only time I had it. I mean, knock on wood, but so
No,
yeah, it
but
was.
what you're saying about performing is so cool because when we're on stage, it's not about us. It's not
Yeah.
about, hey, look at me, look how amazing I am. It's, wow, there you are.
Yes, yeah.
Most people go to a show to be entertained and to be
Well,
taken out of their own head and to,
that's why I say we're doctors. We're essential workers. People leave happier and rejoiced, and it's how many letters I get from people like, "Oh, I was having a bad day. Thank you. Your show changed my life," or seeing a
right?
little kid in the audience with their eyes big and bright. That's it's just such a good feeling to help people. You
Yeah,
know, like
it
this is
really is.
they're coming into our office and we're providing a service, and it's not like
Yeah.
it's not, you have to let your ego go because it's not about that.
And if you could just say, look, I love this guitar. I love these songs. I love being here. I'm so happy we're all together. I love being in this band. And you just give that kind of energy, and your intent is to connect with folks. That's it. That's your job.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
of course you show up prepared. Of course you play and sing well. That's,
Hmm.
you know, the first steps, but the being there and giving of yourself is what they're looking for. They're looking for
Yes,
that magic.
exactly. And a magic and a message too. And
Mm,
that's the thing. That's like I said, the bigger the show gets, the more corporate it potentially can become, and that's
true.
where we have to be careful because you can have a wonderful message with the show, but if it's not wholeheartedly believed behind the scenes and up top, it doesn't feel authentic. And for me, authenticity
Mm.
is very important. Like talk the talk and walk the walk.
Well,
So
I get myself in trouble that way because I want everybody to feel as deeply about things as I do, or to have at least some of the same scruples about it as I do. But there are different people uh, working different jobs. Like the drummer has to take care of the drums, and I have to take care of the guitar. So some of the admin people that have to take care and look at the bottom line.
yes,
So of course they need to be bean counters, or they're not going to be as interested in the heartfelt whatever message that I'm thinking I'm promoting. They have to sell it or whatever. But
yes,
as long as their part doesn't conflict with
yes.
the whole, like then at least we're making a whole puzzle or a whole quilt, and we're doing this together, and we realize the importance of each other. I don't want to say one part is more important than another, because even some of the major
Do one
artists,
without the other.
yes, even the major artists have, major banks bankrolling the underwriting for all the insurance so that the artist doesn't take the hit. So it's wild.
Well, that's why they call it music business. Music with the lowercase m, business with the all uppercase. It's
Yeah, but I'm really shocked at what the business has done to itself. I just can't even wrap my head around it some days, of how
yeah.
bizarre they've made it. And
Well, I would think like as time passes that more music, and this is why I think musicians should be, once you're done playing, or if you're not playing as much anymore, you don't want to be on stage. I've always been interested in being a tour manager because I
really,
love to organize. I love things being because I know how I would want to be treated, or what would make me comfortable on the road, and like things that I would want to be like overseen. I really am an organized person when it comes to like trips and planning, like that stuff. Like I see sometimes something's an oversight, like, oh, I forgot to do this, or oh, I forgot to do that. But I'm like, I know I wouldn't miss it because I wouldn't miss that part because I've been there and I've seen it be missed, and seeing what can happen if that's not in place.
so
So
the
I
tour manager does that.
yeah, I think more musicians, even like as executives in music labels, like I would hope that, but you also have to have like a business acumen as well, as
Hmm.
knowing how to follow, to help the musicians as well as the clients and the patrons.
Hmm.
But again, like I said, because it's like, the middle class seems to be disappearing in that. So it has to be more evenly dispersed. I mean, I'm coming back to the writer's strike, what's going on now, where
Yeah.
people are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of the backs of people making less than 26,000 a year.
Wow.
So it's yeah, there's like a
When did
huge
the strike actually start?
Writers Guild strike started about 80 days ago, and then
Wow.
then SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, started about a week ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
Crazy.
potentially the crew on Broadway, the IAST, I forget the abbreviation, that was going to start about a week ago. That would have completely shut Broadway down,
Wow.
which would have been a huge hit, because with no
Yeah.
new TV shows coming out, no new movies being produced, people are either going to syndicated television, or they're going to start going out and seeing live shows again, which would be like Broadway and music. And one musician made a good point. He said, with all these TV shows shut down, more people will look to make live music. Musicians, do not undercut yourself, because people are going to go spend money to see live shows. So make sure you're getting compensated properly,
Very
because
possibly. Yeah.
I mean, people want entertainment. People, as much as they kind of say sometimes that music is a hobby and not important and not necessary. Why,
Hmm.
hello, who's this?
This is Romeo.
Hi, Romeo. Adorable.
He's like, hey, it's 3 o'clock here. It's time for my dinner.
Oh yeah.
You used to eat at like 5. I don't know why
Yeah.
you get hungrier and hungrier every day.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, he's a good
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
No,
So
so they're trying to say, don't lower your.
don't lower your rates. And after the pandemic, a lot of companies or they would use the excuse, well, the pandemic, but they had PPP loans to stay afloat. And
Mm,
I've seen instances where they use COVID or the pandemic as a reason to pay less. But I'm like, hey, you've saved money for 2 years. People are
I
dying to
know.
come out and spend money and see performances. And the little guy musicians shouldn't take the hits. You know,
No, no.
after being out of work for so long, and that's why I'm very I implore people to hire live musicians. And I know David had a show recently where there was a chance there wouldn't be live music.
Oh, wow.
He was going to use pre-recorded music, but the union and a few members and myself, we all reached out saying, this, well, it was a union sanctioned house too, so you had to you had to employ a certain amount of musicians. So all
Right.
ultimately they did end up hiring some musicians for the show, which is good because it gives everyone work, gives people work, and goes into the pension fund.
Yeah.
So
I've never been one that buys into the crazy artist or the baby immature person is the artist or the musician. There are a lot of intelligent musicians and a lot of very, very smart uh, musicians that are business oriented as well. And
mhm.
I don't like that it's been the history all along to just take advantage of folks and have them sign away their publishing and treat
Yeah.
them like they're babies and manage all their money because they can't manage themselves and take away all their power.
Well, that's
And
the thing.
then,
Yeah, you have to know your rights.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
that's education. I think with unions too, if they would provide that type of stuff, because a lot of musicians in the union, they didn't go to Berkeley, they didn't go to music schools, they didn't learn this stuff, but they want to play music professionally. But if there was some sort of course to explain writing and publishing and
mhm,
copyrights, save, having your stuff documented, and
yeah,
that's important. And like artists, like David's never been a hired gun. I never thought about that until like a few weeks ago. I'm like, going from art school to New York in the late '70s and then getting signed. And so like I've talked to him before, and I'm like, sometimes we wouldn't make sense. I'm like, oh wait, he's never, as far as I know, he's never like been like a side person to someone.
yes. And there are a lot of people like that. They can only be the lead person. They can only write
Yes,
their own things.
yeah.
Or even Tom Petty in his band said, we couldn't play other people's music. It just didn't sound good.
Oh.
We could only write our own, but I love what Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers did.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But when I was a new teacher at Berkeley, Gary Burton had the only business music of business course, and he let me sit in on it. And every single thing he taught us each week was actually happening to me at the time.
Oh,
And
wow.
every mistake he said to avoid was presented to me. I was signed to a major label. He said, they're going to lie to you and tell you you're just amazing and you're the best thing that they've ever heard. They did that. They're going to tell you you don't need a lawyer because it's for this one song compilation album. You do need a lawyer. They're going to try to talk you out of getting a lawyer. And I was the only band artist with my band that got paid for being on that because we were affiliated with all the right things that he told us to affiliate with, and he saved us. And he was the only person teaching this, and this made me so furious because I graduated in 1982 from Berkeley, and it was like they taught me how to build a model plane. It was this
Ah,
amazing creation, wonderful model plane. It was gorgeous and it could do anything, but it didn't know how to fly without the business,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so I was raving and complaining that we needed more business courses. And then, like 20 years later, one of my students came in and said, oh, I'm so busy and I can't practice and I have all these damn business classes and Berkeley's all about the money and the business. And I was like, oh, like you don't realize how much that saved me.
Yeah, it's gonna help you in the long run. It was weird being at Berkeley the time I was, because I auditioned on a cassette tape. All my class projects were on mini disc and CDs. And then at the end, like I said, Napster was just starting. So it was a very transformative. Technology was moving quicker than humanity could. And but no, so I'm learning, I'm taking some of these courses, but the world outside of Berkeley was changing so quickly that so I got a little bit of a shock when I came out because of what happened with the downloading and the labels. Nobody was prepared for that hit that came.
Yeah.
And nobody would have known because we were just learning what we knew already.
And
Wow.
was
This is
Berkeley
what's
on top
happening
of
with
it as
AI now.
yeah,
Not as on top as it was on top as much as it could be, but it would take like
yeah.
if we're there teaching, we're not in the field seeing what's happening in real time.
Right, right.
There's no way of knowing unless you have like a bridge or an ambassador or something, someone coming in and saying, hey, this industry, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when they had to start having courses for some of the professors to keep up with like technology was coming out quickly, like new.
Well, they always have things that we
Okay.
continue learning constantly. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good thing. But
Yeah.
that brings me up to a question I had on my list here was that how did you feel Berkeley prepared you for the real world? Like, what's some of your experiences in the real world that were completely different than Berkeley, where Berkeley uh, maybe didn't get it right or wasn't up to date?
Well, I'd say honestly, mostly like just being around my peers, the social skills, uh,
Mm,
meeting different people, different cultures, because we all come from one place, and
yeah.
Berkeley is like all places. It was like something I'd never seen before. Even though
Oh,
the city I'm from is very diverse. I mean, it was segregated with like neighborhoods, but the schools I went to public schools, but one was a global education school, one was an art school. So I think just Berkeley providing the facility to be able to meet with different people in one space. From what I hear, the school's changed quite a bit with like population wise, it's doubled now. It's about 6,000. And is that true?
I probably it is.
Because it was,
I think,
it was 3,000 when I was there, and half of them were guitar players. Now it's 6,000 and half are singers.
yeah, they were trying to even out the male to female ratio, and so they stopped taking so many guitar players and brought in
Yeah, yeah. Well,
vocalists.
they can just get more female guitar players. They're out there. But
I know.
another thing, the writer's strike that happened around 2008, 2009, that's the last time the strike happened, that gave birth to reality shows because they're unscripted. So all these reality shows started coming out around 2009, 10, 11, including
Hmm.
American Idol, The Voice, all these things. And this is why all of a sudden everyone wanted to be singers.
Oh yeah,
No,
true.
a lot of people on those TV shows tell me they say they went to Berkeley.
Oh
Like a
yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I've had
So
quite a few students who were auditioning for those things.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's crazy the whole transition that happened.
Earlier we were talking about reading music and such, and I remember a very funny story from grammar school. I'm 9, 10 years old, and the teacher asks the class, "Does anybody read music?" And I raise my hand. So she brings in this notebook, and it's got all these different songs in it that she wants me to teach the class to sing. And all they have is chord symbols over the words and
Mhm.
no bar lines
Oh
and
wow.
no tempo. And, I don't know if it's 3/4 or 4/4, and I certainly don't know the melody. And she says to me, "Oh, can you play this?" And I said, "Yeah, but I don't know when I'm supposed to switch and how many beats." And she's like, "I thought you said you could read music."
Oh wow.
But boom, bah.
Well, if you like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the strongest, as strong of a reader as I used to be. And that's something, again, I'm challenging myself. Angie, pick up a real book, play along with it, because you have to kind of force yourself. And like I said, it's a very strong tool to have because if you can read, your workload will double.
Wow.
You'll have more opportunities. For instance, like was it Ricky Minor, was music director for American Idol back in the early 2000s,
Hmm.
and I was auditioning for Catherine McPhee, and he said something to me. He said, "Do you have eyes?" And I didn't know what that meant at first. I was in my early 20s. I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have two." But he means, do you read music? Because
Yeah.
like some of those shows, you have to learn like hundreds of songs in a week, and sometimes
Wow.
they'll change the song like that, and then they just put new sheet music out. Boom, go.
Yeah.
Or studio sessions are like that. I did something with like for a Disney thing at Power Station like a year ago, and Again, guitar players have a reputation. They say to get a guitar player to stop playing, just put music in front of them.
Right. Or to
This,
turn down.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, so it is an important tool to have. So again, something I need to brush up on. Um,
But a
but
lot of people don't even know how to write for guitar still. So
that's
that
another, yeah, the register is really
a lot
important.
of times then you have to be the one that interprets
Mhm.
for them and makes them look good
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
sort of
Like
read their
I can
mind as
tell
to
when
what
a
they're
piano
asking you
player.
to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean I can tell when a piano player wrote the chords out. Like they'll write something. I'm like, is that? I said, did the piano player write this? Like, yeah, but
Because of the voicing is
yes,
specific and it doesn't fit on
yes,
the guitar. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
mean, just
funny.
writing for any instrument. I did take a class like that at Berkeley. I can't. It was like an orchestration class. I can't remember the name of the class, but like
Mm.
we were writing in like alto, bass, treble, tenor. We're writing in all the clefs,
Well, yeah,
learning.
your arranging classes have you write four horn
Okay,
charts
yeah,
and
yeah,
write
maybe
for
it's
the
yeah,
rhythm
the arranging.
section and
I love that stuff because
yeah,
you're writing in respect to each instrument and
yes,
learning ranges of each instrument.
yeah,
And I think that's something really important, especially if you're going to make orchestrations. It just makes you look so much not like an asshole because you give someone a chart and they're like, "This isn't for my instrument," but it shows respect for each player and that you took
yeah.
time into making their job easier.
It's true. It's really true. You know, another funny thing that happened, talk about being kind to an audience or allowing them to think something that wasn't, I guess. Like there's that joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And people yell out, practice. Well, I was at Symphony Hall and I was listening to Jane Miller play with a band that she was playing with in one of the function rooms. And then after that gig was over, we all went and got to listen to the symphony. And of course, it was an amazing night. But because it was the symphony, I had dressed up all in black and I was in nice shoes and some nice slacks. And I had a black jacket on, and she needed to go get her car to get the gear. And I said, I'll wait with your gear. So I'm standing outside with all this gear outside for Symphony Hall, and everybody's piling out going, you were wonderful tonight. Oh my
Oh,
God, you were amazing. And they're all wanting to shake my hand because they thought I had played in the symphony because I'm standing there with all these instruments and obviously gear that looks like you play with the symphony or something.
yeah.
And I was like, thank you so much for coming. We just love so much that you were here, and thank you so much for telling me. And I was like, and I told my friend Sandy Kopp because she played in the symphony that night, and I said, I didn't know what to do. She said, you did the right thing. You know, like you don't want to tell these folks they just spent a ton of money now and they're making a big mistake.
Yeah, yeah. You should have signed some autographs.
Yeah, right, yeah, right. Well, I toured for 17 years with different Beatle tribute bands. One that did the touring years and playing the songs from 1963 to 1970 in the Beatles catalog when they were together, and then from 1970 on, I was 4 years with another band that played all the solo music,
Oh
and so
wow.
every time we performed somewhere, and it was theaters all over the place and tons of people would come up and want autographs, and I'd think, what are they wanting me to sign? They don't know me from anywhere. You want me to just say the Beatles, or you want me to say George Harrison, or
Yeah, sign George. Yeah.
I'm going to write
George
my name
Passarelli.
and you're going to know what this even says or means, like, and little kids thought we saw the Beatles, and
Oh,
that was funny.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. I'm happy to talk to you. This is
Oh,
awesome.
well, thank you. I'm so happy that you're doing so well and you've done so many cool things. And I want you to just keep imagining yourself doing more and more great things because your heart's in the right place and you do such uh, beautiful, even expressing of what you're feeling as you're in it. This is probably the longest we've ever had a chance to chat because
I
in
think
the
so.
lessons you were really busy and on tour and doing things then. And we didn't get to get out into the things that really matter. We had to just, as soon as you come back, I'd be like, take care of the requirements. And so, yeah, this has really been great.
Yes, likewise. We'll have to see each other in person soon. Told you I'll come back to the East Coast. This is a good time to come. Like winters, no, no. That's if I could just be in
Not a good
LA
time.
in like December and January and then be wherever December, January, February. Yeah, just be in LA those 3 months and then be
right?
on the East Coast the rest of the time. I think I'd be happy. Yeah,
I think you can do that.
yeah, I will do. I'm visualizing it.
There you go. Visualize that and bring yourself there. Yeah, all these opportunities start to come as soon as you start to imagine, I want to do such and such. I wonder what it should be, and then things start to take shape because you're open to the possibilities,
Yes,
kind of
yes,
thing. But
exactly.
definitely check out Dana Wilde or Brooke Castillo or
Oh yeah, I wrote that down.
oh good. Yeah.
RAS. Wait,
The
what was
RAS, look
Brooke's
up the
name?
RAS. It's fascinating.
Wait, it was Brooke. Who? I have Dana Wilde. Who's Brooke? Brooke.
It looks like Castillo, but it's
Okay.
Castillo.
Okay. Yep. Got it.
And yeah, there's so many people. That movie, The Secret, really opened me up in
Oh yeah.
2006. Yeah, that was really cool. My
The
favorite
four
teachers,
agreements.
yeah, that was really good too. And the people I like the most on YouTube, Esther Hicks talks about the teachings of Abraham, and that's really freeing. And it seems to be the most interesting, loving, understanding, compassionate take on this human existence that I've ever heard. So I really get a kick out of that kind of stuff. And then, like, just because we play guitar, we know it's all about just tuning yourself
Yes.
thousands of times a day, right? Like Jim Carrey always says, we just have to keep tuning ourselves to be our best self. And if we're not up for it, take a nap.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Play until you feel like resting, rest until you feel like playing. Yeah, that's a really good quote too. I got to get her name right to quote her. But yeah, this has really been sweet. Thank
Yeah,
you so
absolutely.
much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anything we didn't get to that you wish you could have
There's
told
a
us
lot
about?
of stuff, but I'll think about it for next time. We'll save it for part two.
Okay, yeah, sure. There could be a part two.
Yeah, when I get some music out there, because that's like I said, like my summer work is wiped out. So I'm just figuring out how to survive, which will happen, but how to to make the best of this time too. Like,
Yeah,
during the
right. So,
pandemic, everything was shut down, but I wasn't feeling as creative at first because I was like, what the hell is going on? Will it ever come back to how it was? Are we okay? Like, all that uncertainty was there. And then I saw other people like, I'm using this time to relax and I just learned a new language. And I'm like, what? Come out there fluent in something. So,
oh,
uh,
good.
so
Make
that's,
the best of it.
well, that's going to be my August now because I think I have a gig on July 31st and I have my next gig after that on September 2nd. So
Okay,
I'm looking at,
where are they? Can people come and see you? Because this is going to be at every
um,
podcast place.
well, on again, September 2nd with Mono Neon at Yoshi's in San Francisco. On
Okay.
September 2nd, that's Labor Day weekend, so that should be nice. And
Go
then
see Angie.
yes,
Who
go see Angie. And then
are you
July,
playing with then?
Mono Neon.
Okay.
Yeah, check him out. He's very eccentric, ridiculous, virtuoso bass player. He's just amazing. Very, very
Nice.
unique. You'll see if you check him out. And then July 31st, just like a music video shoot.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We'll have a great time.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Angie. This was awesome.
Likewise, let's stay in touch and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.